We are going to keep this as simple as we can over here, because to go into the depth of Tanya, really in every word, as we know, the Alter Rebbe, which is the author of Tanya, he was the disciple, very favorite disciple of the Maggid of Mizrich, which was a favorite disciple of the Baal Shem Tov. So there's so much which we know the way the Alter Rebbe wrote the Tanya itself, that he spent much time not only in every word but even every letter. The precision is great, and therefore really we could delve into every single word. But I believe that at least when we run through the Tanya, it's important that we get some type of acquaintance with the Tanya, the way, in other words, to try to cover some ground. And then once we have an acquaintance, each one on their own, we'll find some light literally in the expressions, the fine expressions of the Rambam, details and nuances. So we're going to start over here from the first page. Now, if you notice, I printed in the first page. Now, just a note over here: the Tanya originally, this is the Tanya, not this is the. In other words, the Tanya is written originally in this format of its not broken up into pieces, but it's five parts basically. The Tanya. When you say Tanya, it's mostly referring to the first part, which is called Likutei Amarim, a collecting of sayings, and it's written in this format, as you can see. Not much divided over here. Many pages just have like maybe even a period but not much divided into paragraphs, just chapter by chapter. It's maybe just a few in the Likutei Amarim, which is the first part, which is divided within the chapter itself. So this is the way it's written, and this is basically this is the way it's printed in thousands of copies in thousands of places, which was printed from the time of its original print. So what we're learning over here, though, as you notice, is very different the way it looks in its original text. But I did this in a way because Tanya is translated in many different languages, and primarily in English, and this is a very classic, beautiful translation, and not only translation, but a beautiful explanation as well, to every phrase in Tanya. So I'm going to just translate naturally the parts which are in Lashon HaKodesh, which was written by the Alter Rebbe, including the first words, and then we'll go on to the first chapter, which is in the next page. I nonetheless printed, if you have the time, you could take this home, that eventually you could look through the first page, which is important, and to understand certain ideas which the Alter Rebbe himself conveys in his first few words, and as well the way it's explained and the way it's explained of his disciples and his colleagues, what they wrote about the Tanya. And then we'll go on right away to the first chapter, which is the Likutei Amarim. So we're going to start again. The reason why I printed the beginning, as I just mentioned, because these are words of the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe starts Sefer Likutei Amarim. The Sefer of Likutei Amarim is collecting of sayings, which is again known how the Alter Rebbe, with his great humbleness, he called his Sefer, which is a tremendous work, as we will see. The Tanya is a tremendous work. He just called the Likutei Amarim, a collecting of sayings. He was a disciple of the Maggid, which was a disciple of the Baal Shem Tov. So, and also he was Makabel as well from he was a descendant of the Maral Miprog. So he called his whole sefer, his whole compilation, is Likutei Amarim, just a collection of sayings. We know this was a kind of revolutionary sefer which gave way to a very smooth approach to our Avodas Hashem, to our service to God. Nonetheless, again, he called it Likutei Amarim, and Chelik Rishon, the first part, which is called Sefer Shel Beinanim, the Sefer of the average. Now, when you say Sefer Shel Beinanim in itself, it's a very interesting approach. The Alter Rebbe feels, and this is one of the fundamentals of the Alter Rebbe over here in Tanya, is that not everybody has to be the tzaddik, which is already something on its own revolutionary. Why aren't you that tzaddik? I don't have to be a tzaddik, really. Not necessarily is the service in our Avodas Hashem that we ought to be tzaddikim. Later, the Alter Rebbe is even going to prove that tzaddik is a kind of gift, like you say, for example, you say a kohen. Someone wants to be a kohen. It's a noble thing, and it's something very special. The kohen in the David, in the Beis Hamikdash. But no one can be a kohen. If you're born a kohen, or you're a kohen, you're not a kohen. To a certain extent, it's not exactly the same as the idea of a tzaddik. A tzaddik really doesn't belong to everybody, especially the way the Alter Rebbe is going to show in Torah sources that tzaddik is something very unique. That when we strive to go higher and higher, not necessarily we strive to be the tzaddik. Now it's not exactly the Kohen because ultimately every tzaddik was once not a tzaddik, or maybe he climbed the ladder till he became a tzaddik, and no one could climb a ladder to be a Kohen, right? A Kohen, you can climb any ladder, you're not going to become. But there's a certain similarity over here to the Kohen and the tzaddik, because this is not our avodah. If Hashem wants us to be the tzaddik, He will do something. Especially as again we will see, just throwing in some bits over here just to understand why the Alter Rebbe calls it Sefer Shalbein. We will see clearly once we define what the tzaddik is, we'll notice that not necessarily it is pertinent to each one of us to be the tzaddik. That's why it's called Sefer Shalbein, the Sefer of the average. Now the question was an average. That's pretty cool to be an average. Average. If you think about it, is one of the places to the Beinani. The Gemara says Zevaz HaSheifton, the Yitzhahar and the Yitzhahar, they're both judges of the world, so they have a certain understanding or a certain authority over the person. So that kind of, you're not necessarily a good person, a Beinani, if you think about it on its simple term, a Beinani, the average person. Okay, sins a little bit, does a little mitzvahs, but that cannot be obviously the approach or the drive of the Alter Rebbe, that we should just be those average people. The Alter Rebbe is going to show that the Beinani, even though by definition he's called the average person, or the Beinani, the simple, the one in the middle between the Rosh and the Tzaddik, but he's very, very far from someone Chas v'Shalom who's sinning. The Rebbe is going to prove later and show you based on Gemaras. Everything the Alter Rebbe wrote is all based on Nigla the Torah. Alter Rebbe himself was a big genius in the Nigla, which means in the halacha part of Torah, and in Gemara and Shas. And the Alter Rebbe, the youngest of age, the first time the Alter Rebbe finished Shas, he was 8 years old. Can you imagine? 8 years old, he finished Shas, and we see also from the Alter Rebbe in Tanya, which he wrote himself a Shulchan Aruch, because we know the Shulchan Aruch Harav written by the Alter Rebbe, the same author as the Tanya. So everything the Alter Rebbe writes in the esoteric part of Tanya, which he definitely gave way, and he definitely something opened up a new light for us. For that matter, his name was Shnei Or. Shnei Or means two lights. His name was Shnei Or, like the light of the Nigla, which means the revealed part of Torah, and also the secret part, the esoteric part of Torah. But there was no such a thing. But the Alter Rebbe was in one name, because it's really one Torah. And in every part of the esoteric part of the Torah, starting from the Tanya, Alter Rebbe shows you everything, the way it says in Gemara like this, and this is another Gemara, and that's another Gemara. So everything is based on Torah. When you say the Beinani, the Alter Rebbe is going to show us the Beinani doesn't really sin, Chas v'Shalom, not even once to that matter. We're going to see how that really works. So, but on the other hand, it is attainable to every person to be a Beinani. So therefore it's called Sefer Shal Beinani. Again, it's going to naturally be elaborated in the prakim, particularly in the first 12 prakim, in the first 12 chapters. Melukat mipi Sfarim mipi Seifrim. This is a collection of Sfarim, books, mipi Seifrim of writers. Gedoshe Elyon. We're talking about not just writers, but people have supreme sanctity. And this is based, Miyusa, the Sefer, the whole book of the Tanya, is based on the pasuk Ki Karev Elecha Hadavar Ma'ed. So there's a pasuk which says that this Karev Elecha is a pasuk in Chumash Dvarim. I believe it's Mashas Nitzavim Bar. So it says Ki Karev Elecha Hadavar Ma'ed, that the Torah is very close to you, in your mouth, in your heart. Last seem to do. If you think about it right away, you see the clear thought, speech, and action. Heart is not really thought, but still it's something more the inner dimension of man, which is, again, you could even equate it to thought. And then meficha is your speech, lasseis is an action. And the famous question is, levayir heite, we have to explain echu karev, how's it close? We tell the yid, we are honest yid, right? And tell a yid, let's be honest, is Torah close to us? I don't know. Not necessarily. I mean, Torah is close to us, but you could say it's easy to be. It's a very famous expression in Yiddish. Shver zu sein a Yid. It's not so close. You say to the Yid that even it's not close, it means not something which is to have that, the constant guarding of Torah mitzvahs on a daily basis. We know, if we're honest with ourselves, Torah is not just like Shabbos, Yom Kippur, eat matzahs and blow the shofar. Torah is on a daily basis. We have the famous 6 mitzvahs, tzmidia, conscious 6 mitzvahs, to believe in Hashem and to believe in the oneness of Hashem, to fear Hashem. Also in the leisesa, we have to be careful in our thoughts, speech, and action, what we look at, what we listen to. This is a 24-hour process. This is something which really cuts into every minute or second of our day. If we want to be honest from a Yidden, it's not something which just a daven shachris that come to Meider. It's something which we are challenged every day, every second of our life. And sometimes a millisecond, thought, to be careful, to be clean, and in one's machshava, you have to be careful in not only a second, a millisecond. It makes a difference of appropriate what you look at and what you think and so on. So if you tell the Yid, it's not easy, it's not karev, you got to do it anyway, because Hashem says you have to do it. That makes sense. That's honest. But how could Torah come and say Karev? A Torah is Karev Ma'id, and not only Karev, it's Ma'id. Hadavar Ma'id. It's very Karev. I don't see how it's very Karev. The average honest person would say it's not so Karev. It's not Karev. It's certainly not Ma'id. Ma'id means very close. It's something which I have to subjugate myself to this higher authority, which is called the Eibishter, which he expressed his rutzon, his desire in Torah. That's what that I could relate to. But you can't really. How could you say it's close? So the Alter Rebbe says one of the points of the Tanya is to show you how it is indeed close, not only attainable that we can do it, but it's close to our heart. It's something that we could live with, and not only live with, but more so something which we could find that this is really part and parcel of it. So let's say, for example, someone doesn't know that, say how many times do you breathe in an hour? But the average person breathes an hour, so many breaths. Someone's going to say, well, I'm so tired of breathing, maybe I take a break. Right? What do you do the most? You breathe the most, right? You eat a little, you eat and you stop eating, but I breathe so much, I want to take a break. So if someone's not educated, let's say he wants to take a break, it's a narishkeit, and he's going to say, you know what, the doctor said that because breathing is so important, and maybe the Eibishter said it, let's say, so I'm going to give in, I'm going to continue breathing. It's one way. But a healthy person understands that it's not that you give in to something, you surrender to this authority which says you got to breathe continuously. You just understand that breathing is what really gives me life. I have to continue living, and this is real chayim. And on the contrary, the moment someone tells me stop breathing, it'll hurt me. It'll tell me that something is wrong, and I'll feel that something is wrong, and I'll be very nervous about it, and it'll cause me stress when someone tells you have to stop breathing. Right? It's just two different approaches. Now we don't know the first approach because we know that breathing is something so essential and crucial. This is what we live. But you're talking about theoretically, conceptually speaking, it's the same thing as Torah. There's something that say, I am who I am. I know myself. A pretty, down to earth guy, and sometimes you say down to earth because it has a broad bracket, and then I know there's a Torah. It says can't sleep in, you got to get up, and you have to learn, and daven, you have to do. And then, like we said before, it's not only learning and davening, which comes a few times a day. It's 24 hours a day serving a Kodesh Baruch Hu mitzvah say in the positive, and mainly stay away from the negative. Again, you see how it cuts into every minute, and that's one way of saying. It's difficult, I wish I didn't have it, but I'm a Yid, and I have to surrender to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Or, Ki Karev Ilecha. The Alter Rebbe is going to show us ultimately how it's Karev means, that in essence, it's like you're breathing. What's the Alter Rebbe going to prove, basically? That it's really part and parcel of who we really are as Yidden. We have a neshama, and from the neshama's perspective and point of view is, that's its breath. Torah, mitzvahs, what Hashem wants. Ava v'yira, love, fear. Whatever Hashem wants, that's its delight. Now the question is, where is that in neshama? It's kind of maybe dug in very, very deep, so to say, could be covered with many, many layers. Sometimes layers which are caused just of mere fact that we find ourselves in this physical, mundane world. You could even add maybe crass and gross world sometimes, and sometimes things which we ourselves, because of our worldly inclinations, or you could even take it a step, maybe crass and gross actions and involvement which we are in our package of our life, that we ourselves created these layers over our neshama. So, but that doesn't take away, if you're going to take a jewel, for example, you're going to put it in layers and layers of mud, it's never going to take away from the fact that it's a jewel. It's a jewel and remain a jewel exactly the way before you clean it after you. The only thing is, it's maybe not shining, or it's not something so exciting, you're not going to put it until you clean it, but it doesn't take away the fact, as many layers as dust or mud you're going to put over that jewel is going to remain a jewel. So the idea of it is that to find the jewel within ourselves, to find this neshama which truly exists, and in essence exists in a way that it's not necessarily or let's say even there's certain parts of the neshama that is always on the surface, not necessarily we're tuned into it, but we have to look for it. Once we find it, we notice that the greatest delight of the most important part within ourselves is to serve Hashem. So we're going to have to go look for it. But once we look for it, we notice, we realize, especially we exercise a thought, and we learn more and more Tanya, let's say. So then we notice that Torah is not only something I'd rather it didn't happen, I'd rather I didn't have to do it, or I'd rather would be a little easier, and it's certainly not karev. Nonetheless, I will surrender myself to it. But more and more we will realize and we'll notice that it's truly karev. It is truly something which is close, because this is the true, real me. So we're going to have to go find it. Now, what way we're going to find it? So the Rebbe concludes over here, b'derech harucha uktzara. in a long way and a short way, right? So what does it mean, a long way and a short way? Short way means apparently it's right here. Long way means it's all the way there. So where is it? If it's a short way, what do I need the long way for? And if you can only attain it in the long way, you tell me it's in a short, it's right over here. Where is that karev? What is it going to prove me that it's karev? Something which is long or something which is short? So the answer is, the Rebbe himself is going to show you in Tanya that there is two ways, right? Like a guy comes up from off the street and he stands in Yom Kippur and Shul and he could melt from a kol nidrei. He could really, and it happens to a certain extent to all of us. Not necessarily. I mean, that's what we do have. We do have before Yom Kippur, Rosh Hashanah, the idea of preparing ourselves, achana to the times of the Yomim Neraim. But not necessarily do we have our daily, business doesn't close from Chodesh Elul and on, right? Things are basically the same. We, in our own style, in our own way, have to give it the go, for example, make an effort in order to make a chana. But let's say, to a certain extent, we're someone, the individual off the street came into Yom Kippur and Shul, to some degree, we're all like that, If not exactly, we're still from a Yid, which made certain preparations, but there is a concept that we find from the out of the shul into the shul. And it could be regular Shabbos, regular mincha, but I say kol nidrei because they kind of peak. You come to shul and everybody is necessary, everybody's aroused. What happened over here? What was the real me 10 minutes before I came to shul, the moment I came to shul? And you see sometimes people melt in the time of Yom Kippur, they melt away, sometimes with tears. Like, what happened over here? So, and that's kind of a ktsara, it's a short way. In other words, from the time where they were looking for something godly, divine, till they made it. They're melting into the or the light of godliness, the flame of godliness. It took a few moments. The only problem, and what happened, what really is going on over here is, and sometimes and usually this comes in times which are peak moments. So sometimes they say kol nidrei or ne'ilah, or many times in our history you find many people who gave up their life for Hashem. They surrendered their life completely to Hashem. Kiddush Hashem, and it wasn't necessarily the most brilliant people, not necessarily the Talmidei Chachamim, not necessarily the extra pious people. It was the simple people, sometimes kal shebekal, people who weren't observant in Torah mitzvahs. Something which everybody could look and see. This is in our bitter history which we experienced, that hundreds of thousands of Yidden died al Kiddush Hashem throughout since Matan Torah, and most of them, or there was never a line how frum the person was particularly. If sometimes a person, again, on his daily basis, he wasn't so observant. So the question is, what happened? And what is it? What did they ask and say? You're going to denounce the oneness of Hashem, or you're not going to denounce the oneness? And if your life's on stake, so yesterday he didn't put on film, tomorrow he's going to put on film, so just say there is no Eibishter. And you find these people, they're ready to suffer, literally suffer, and give up their life, just not to say once, denounce the oneness of Hashem. What happened over here? That is the concept, the notion of ktsara. It's very short. It goes straight to the point, because this is the essence of every Yid, that he has a neshama. What is the neshama? So it says in Pasuk in Tanakh, the neshama is a chelik of the kamimal. It's a part of Hashem. Can Hashem deny Hashem? It's impossible, because Hashem is Hashem, right? So when we have within ourselves that godliness, that godly, not only spark, but a chelik, a real part, a share. We have a part of Hashem within ourselves. So that's why it was obvious when the person came to a moment that not to denounce the oneness of Hashem. What happened was the core of him, the essence of him, his neshama came to the surface right away without any preparation. Not only that preparation, he could have been like the lesson kal shebekal. It could be he was not observant one day before, and things which he had to be observant, even things which are deiraisa. Not until he put on tefillin, even chas v'shalom. But right away when he said, he didn't. He did chas v'shalom, would not denounce the oneness of Hashem. Why? Because the neshama within him came to the surface immediately. Because he is a ben Avraham Yitzchak Yaakov. He's a son of Avraham Yitzchak Yaakov, and Avraham Yitzchak Yaakov. That's why they were called obvious, because they infused into every single Yid that part of Hashem which exists within each one of us. And it doesn't matter who. It's not necessarily the Talmid Chacham, necessarily every Yid. In the Lashon of the later Rebbe says, Yeh Mishiyeh. The one across the world which doesn't know anything, he has a neshama like the biggest Talmid Chacham. Because he's a Yid. So that Yid within him, on a daily basis, not necessarily it comes to the surface. And that's a disadvantage, because what do I need the arucha? What do I need the long way? If I have the shorter way, that I could become nisair, I could just arouse her. If it's Yom Kippur, it's kol nidrei, or when something Something is when something no good happens, or something when something good happens. But these are kind of sparks of moments which the neshama just comes up to the surface, and that's a ktsara. It's right there. You can see it, and again, to the extent that people were ready to leave their bodies behind. It wasn't just they announced with a sign, "I'm a Jew, and I'm proud, and I'll sing it out loud," but they really gave it all they got. They were ready literally to die on the stake in front of hundreds of people, just chas v'shalom not to announce what I was saying. That's very powerful. So what's the disadvantage of that? The disadvantage of that is just like that is just a spark of a moment. And as opposed to, and that usually doesn't have continuity. It doesn't last very long, or not. It doesn't very very long. It doesn't break in to where Hashem wants godliness to break into every moment of our life, that we have to keep a Torah mitzvahs, which dictates how we ought to live on every day and every moment, every day, every hour, every minute, and every moment of our life. So these sparks are important and good, and they show that this is the emes of every yid, but it's not adequate, and with that we cannot maintain a life of Torah mitzvahs. Therefore, it's important to show not only how it's karev biktsara, which the Rebbe is going to show us. Basically, this is basically the words which we just said before, but more so the arucha. The yid, we have a godliness that we could tap into. We have a Torah, not only we have a Torah mitzvahs, but we have Hashem exposed Himself to us, literally. Hashem exposed Himself to us. You know, it's based on starting from Torah itself, and Torah Shebiksav, and Torah Shebal Peh, famous Shir Hashirim, which shows Rebbe definitely is a very strong approach with Tanya of the relationship of the Yid with the Eibush. There's many different levels of relationship of the Yid and the Eibush. Hashem, we say Eibush to mean Hashem, father and son, a brother, basically a chaysi, a brother, a sister. But over Shir Hashirim, which is a classic illustration of the relationship with Hashem and the Yid, is like a husband and wife. And husband and wife, the relationship is the climax of relationship between two people is ultimately the husband and wife. The love, the connection to the extent of intimacy. Hashem established this relationship with them. The reason why Shlomo Melech wrote it like that, because that's the emes, that's the truth. Hashem is not just like a father, which sometimes says hello to his son, and sometimes says, how was your homework, how was your day? You know, a devoted father would say it every single day. It's not such a devoted father, we have to ask once a week. Hashem completely gave us the ability to access Him like a husband, like in a relationship with a husband and wife. It's always in the, Hashem exposes Himself to us 100% as long as we're interested in developing a relationship with Him. Once we know that, we can tap, in other words, Hashem, we have the ability to tap in to God and godliness, divinity, not only the way it comes through Torah, to do what Hashem wants, which is that's the most important, to put on the tefillin and to daven and to keep Shabbat, so on, but the feeling that all this is developing a stronger bond and relationship with God, like a husband and wife. Like someone says, when do you really love your wife? Sometimes it can take 10 years, 15 years, because it's an ongoing process of relationship which just enhances stronger and stronger, and more profound and more profound, and then eventually you look back 10 years and you say, well, that's a very big difference. And obviously we're not talking about the game, you know, that someone said, oh, the greatest time I loved my wife was when we were engaged. That's just la la la. That's not real, right? You know, it was exciting, but it's not real. And then we know the moment the reality kicks in, you know that it's a process which you build, and eventually it doesn't diminish. On the contrary, it just becomes stronger and stronger. In normal cases, obviously. The same thing with Hashem. Hashem is something that we could really tap into, and He exposes Himself to us, and He gives us the ability. One of the experiences that a person could become even intimate with Hashem, for example, that's the idea of davening. The idea of davening, especially Kriya Shema and Shemona Esrei. It's if you think about it, sometimes you're in a public place, you know, so people fly, airport. I know myself, I periodically fly, and you come to everybody, you daven, people look like, what do you do? You don't even realize what you're doing on a daily basis till sometimes you just stand in this public place. You think to yourself, what am I doing every single day? You stand, you take your sitter, and you concentrate. What's really happening? Like, you say a mitzvah, put on the tefillin, but what's happening when I'm davening? True exercise of davening is that I could really develop and have that feeling, a real feeling, a tangible, if you even call it a tangible, palpable feeling in the relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to extent of intimacy. That's the Shemona Esrei. It says it's a time of intimacy with Hashem. It's not something with the Tanya. It's based on all in Talmud, in starting from Torah Shebiksav, and mainly in Tanakh. Shir Hashirim is again a classic. So Hashem exposed Himself to us in a way that we could tap into. Once we do that, this is their derech harucha. It's not something simple, just like in a relationship, like we said, a husband and wife. It's not something which is a spark. There are sparks. There are special sparks. This day and that day of the year today we have days on the calendar. This is supposed to be a day that you buy your present, and this is a. But these are sparks, and sometimes they're true, and not. But it does exist, but that doesn't constitute a healthy relationship. But once in a while, something is. A healthy relationship is on a daily basis. When it's broken into, like we said before, it cuts into the minutes, and in the minutes, and there's the seconds. That's a healthy relationship with a spouse. And sometimes it means taking out the garbage. I mean, things which are things that seem to be like, or any other chore. Everybody knows exactly, and the more you live with the other person, you know more what the other person wants. So it's a derech harucha. But the advantage of it is that it's something which ultimately resonates, and something which makes a difference. It really transforms life. It makes life. It creates life. And similarly with Hashem, surely there's sparks. Kol Nidre, Yom Kippur, sometimes Pesach, Shmor Matzah, the Seder table. These are wonderful things, and you see the neshama coming straight to the surface. And you look at a yid who just came off the street, and he's already eating matzah, and he's excited about God, and he's truly excited about God. It's not gemacht, it's not something that's just play. He's truly. The problem is, again, it's just ktsaras. It's just something which comes and goes. The idea of it is to establish a relationship as well, to find the karev also with derech harucha in a long way. It takes time. It takes sometimes even, let's say, we see things davening. The Gemara says that the person, for example, should not start davening, just grab from the street and go straight to the siddur and to say yishtabach. A person should sit down and think about God and contemplate. Not everyone, there's no exact time each one. The Gemara says actually in Tichshah, it says 3 hours before davening, 3 hours after davening. What was the point? Do what you got to do and get on. But no, there's an idea of arucha, and in every mitzvah is like that. So it's like l'shem yichud, which one says, but especially by davening. By davening, it's a time that we could really open up the window in our relationship with it, or enhance, or become a more an emotional level, our connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which usually, if one really exercised a healthy davening, it would really last throughout the entire day, and everything that he has to do, or things which he's not supposed to do. Davening, for example, so it's again, I'm not going to run into shul and grab my siddur, yishtabach, or even from Adon Olam. Stop a moment, take 5 minutes, 10 minutes, think about it, Kadosh Baruch Hu, think about Hashem, and again, each one in his own way. If he's, and especially if someone's honest, we all could see hashgacha pratis, divine providence, in every day, if we're honest with ourselves. So we tap in and say, oh, this is real, this is all real, this is all real. And then when you say Baruch Atah Hashem, it's a different Baruch, it's a different Atah. And again, it's not one day's davening, it's an exercise. This is a derech harucha. And the advantage of it is that ultimately it establishes a very healthy relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And we see kikorev, we see how it's close to us. Again, not only surrendering to something which I wish it didn't happen, right? The chosen nation, I wish I wouldn't be chosen as a goat, right? They say the chosen nation, I wish I wasn't be chosen. No. Kikarev, I might appreciate it in this way of Ktsara, and also in this way of Rucha, and Rebbe's Bezos Hashem Yisbarach, as he's going to explain. So, we will go right away to start the, again, I'm leaving the papers with you. Eventually you could see beautiful words over here. If you ever get a chance, you can take it home for the next time around. So we'll start right away the first chapter, which is Likutei Amorim, which is the beginning of the Tanya. The Tanya itself has 53 chapters. So this is the first. Tanya V'Sefer Gimel B'Nida, we learned in the third chapter, in the end of the third chapter of Nida. So it says, Mashbi Maisei. And before the Neshama comes down, the Malach, which is involved in this whole process, right? It's a process. Neshama is coming down into this new reality, which is called Elam Hazeh. Neshama, before it comes down, it's Nenem Ziva Shechina, it sits in its only appreciation. And delight is only to have a nut, literally, to derive pleasure from the ray of the Shekhinah, just one with Hashem. In a number of places, Chatsuva mitachas kisi hakavod. It's carved under the throne of Hashem, and it doesn't have any worries, right? No bills and no other preoccupations associated with this realm, this world. So it's a whole process, and Neshama is coming down from a higher realm, not only higher, but two different worlds. Two different realities, for that matter. A spiritual reality and a very physical reality, as we know what this world consists of. So it's a transition. Does Neshama want to come down? By the way, it's Neshama. There's two. Neshama necessarily one doesn't want to come on its own. It doesn't want to come down. it's there's many medrashim and many svarim which deal with before it comes down. There's a different stages till it ultimately decides. Okay, we're going to go for it. It does have to feel the appreciation of what the Torah mitzvahs, what Hashem had in mind, that ultimately the Torah was given precisely to this world, in this physical world, and that was the Eibishter's plan. This physical world is ultimately transformed into a spiritual world. So it ultimately has to find that appreciation in order to kind of say, okay, we're ready to go. But on its own, why would one, or Hashem, want to leave such a beautiful place to come down into this physical world? And how do you say expression in Yiddish, mutchezich, to go through the 170, 80, 120 years in this famous expression. Hashem comes down in a bag of zak, meat flesh and bone, a sack of flesh and bone, and it goes through all the challenges a person, even he is, Baruch Hashem, would give him and should give every Yid a nice smooth life, but there's inevitably challenges with this world, with what comes along with the package of being in this world. So the neshama has to come down. It's a transition from two different realities. So before it comes down, mashbim, I say they take the neshama and they make it swear. What's the shvur? They say tehit tzadik bal tehit rasha. Be a tzaddik and don't be a rasha. They make it swear. Why do you have to make it swear? Because without making it swear, it's we come into this world. Look around us. You got to take the oath, because if you don't, it's easy to find other interests, let's say, other than this package of Torah mitzvahs. Our body, our bodily desires, needs, the things that we think we need, and so on, are driving in a different direction. So we got to not only that we have to say Hashem, okay, I'm going to go fulfill my purpose in life and keep things always in the appropriate perspective, what I'm here for. Not even a vow, but mashbim, I say, they make it swear, because in other words, the neshama, without swearing, it could be that not necessarily would get it, or it would maintain that focus on a constant basis. So mashbim, they say, they make it swear. And what do they tell the neshama? This in itself, why does he have to? Why do you say double? Or rather, why do you have to say tzadik? Because automatically means don't be a rasha. And if it was just don't be a rasha, isn't there something in between the beinoni? In a sense, there's contradicting. Be a tzaddik means a beinoni is not good enough. When you say bal tehit rasha, don't be a rasha, seems like a beinoni is good enough, right? So it seems contradicting. Well, Rebbe will address it. But just to go on, tehit tzaddik, be a tzaddik, bal tehit rasha, and then that if the whole world will tell you that you're doing good, you're aligned with that shvur that you took, by that oath you took upon yourself, you're aligned with that, and you're a tzaddik, but no, in your eyes you should be like a rasha. Why so? Why so? Why so? Why would? But again, this is the Gemara, that the Gemara says the mashbim may say tzaddik, but eventually, as you progress in this with the shvur of tzaddik, you should know if the whole world tells you you're tzaddik, in your eyes you should be like a rasha. So b'tzarich lahav, and we have to understand. And again, I'm just reading the text the way it's written in the Tanya before you came, and show this is the way the Tanya is. It's without the English or without subtitle. It's just written as it is. And again, it's divided into 5 chapters. Likutei Amarim, when we say usually Tanya is the first chapter, the first part, which is called Likutei Amarim, is written very differently. This is in English the translation and explanation, but I'm going to go through just the text, and then each one is welcome to try to, if they want to see the in-betweens as well. But basically, this is what we're doing. We're learning, and we're trying to explain a little in-betweens, just to understand what the Rebbe is saying. So, b'tzarich lahav, we have to understand on the Atnan Avos Perik Beis, we learned in the Avos, which is the ethics of the fathers, the 2nd chapter, Ba'al ti rasha b'fnei atzmacha, a person should not be a rasha in his eyes. So here we have a contradiction of 2 Mishnahs. One Mishnah says that the whole world is telling you, tzadikata, hey b'necha karasha, you should be like in your eyes like a rasha. And then the other Mishnah says, do not be a rasha in your eyes. It says right away we have a contradiction. It's one Torah, right? Every word in Torah has to coexist with another Mishnah. They really can't contradict. And then the Alter Rebbe goes on, he says, okay, that's when you're dealing with 2 Mishnahs. But let's talk about the way it is in our reality. If we try to follow either of the 2 Mishnahs, it simply doesn't work well. Both of them don't work well. Why? Because what if someone is in his eyes like a rasha? He will have a difficult heart. It'll be strict. It'll be difficult for him, his heart, and he's going to be sad because he's a Rasha. Imagine that you come down to this world, you tell you Al Tihi Rasha, and if in your eyes you're going to be a Rasha, that's very encouraging. Right? How enthusiastic could one be if the Torah would tell him, Hey yei beinecha karasha, Hey yei beinecha karasha, every moment, Hey yei beinecha karasha. That doesn't sound something which is something which is going to enthuse me to do my avodas Hashem. So the first part, the Rebbe has just a contradiction between the two missions. Then the Rebbe breaks it down. They both seem not to work, because if I'm going to be in my eyes like a Rasha, it'll be difficult and I'll be sad, and we cannot be sad in avodas Hashem. Atzlus is something which is not good. It doesn't mean there's a certain bitterness sometimes. So a person, let's say, gives a cry to Shani Kippur, or sometimes in a certain Yisrael. That's not atzos merirus. That's bitterness, which also has a certain energy, pulls a person out from a not particularly good state, and it could elevate a person. It could do good. Sometimes an expression of merirut, bitterness. Atzos is just sadness. Let's say in contemporary language, depression. Leads to nothing. Literally nothing is no thing. It's just disastrous. You all know it. You don't need to elaborate it. And you tell a person, Hey yei beinecha karasha, in your eyes you be a rasha. To a certain extent, it's just absolute. It brings a person to a certain absolute, which is it's not going to drive him anywhere. Certainly not to be excited with Torah mitzvahs. And not to be excited with it. Not necessarily he's going to be able to be consistent with Torah mitzvahs if he's constantly sad. Or depressed, let's use the word. It's not particularly accurate. But and more so, we know a Yid has to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu with simcha. He has to serve Hashem with Ivdu as Hashem b'simcha. Serve Hashem with joy. So how can you need to be in your eyes you be a Rasha, and you're going to be obviously be Atzev? So it doesn't really work well with serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu, period, and particularly serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu with joy. And he goes on. He said, "V'lo yuchal avos Hashem." You won't be able to serve Hashem with joy and gladness of heart. So now let's look at the other Mishnah. V'im, which is the last lines of this page. V'im leir levavi klal mizeh. If he's not going to feel bad about him being a Rasha, like what it says in Pirkei Avos is Al ti Rasha b'fnei atzmacha. Don't be a Rasha in your eyes. If you're not going to feel bad about it, right? We go on to the next page, which is behind, right? In a sense, the person could come to some leniency in his avodas Hashem. If he's not going to care, in other words, he's going to try to follow the other Mishnah, which says, "Don't be a rush in your eyes. I'm good." So I'm good. So in a sense, it brings a certain kalos. Kalos means leniency, because So in other words, if I'm a Rasha, let's look at the positive side. So then I'm trying to creep out of that Rasha state, and I'm trying to serve Hashem more. But if Al Ti Rasha b'fnei atzmacha, you're not such a Rasha, so and you're indifferent about being a Rasha. So then you're different about it. So then, in a certain sense, you can become too callous. In other words, a certain weakness or leniency in your avodas Hashem, chas v'shalom, God forbid. So again, it's not only a contradiction of two Mishnahs. Both advices don't seem to really contribute to one's structure of avodas Hashem. So what do we do about it? So how do we reconcile, and how do we go about these two Mishnahs? So Rebbe gives an introduction. Acha'inyan. This is a Gemara in Brachos. Kine matzina v'Gemara in Chalukas. We find in Gemara five types of Yidden, and one is the tzaddik. Usually it's the tzaddik, Rasha, and Beinani, which means the righteous, the wicked, and Beinani is the one in between. But in the tzaddik itself is divided. The Gemara in Bracha says, tzaddik v'toivlei, tzaddik v'ralei. A tzaddik v'toivlei literally means that he's a tzaddik. It's in the context of Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to find out how the Eibishter runs his world. So Moshe Rabbeinu asked, why is there a tzaddik v'toivlei, why is there a tzaddik v'ralei? Which means there's a tzaddik that it goes well, things are working out for him in this world. In other words, things are okay for him. He doesn't suffer. V'toiv loy, he has parnasim, he has all the children, things are going good for him. And then you have another person, tzaddik v'ralei. It's one of Moshe Rabbeinu's questions. He's a tzaddik and v'ralei. He's having a difficult time in this world. If he's a tzaddik, two tzaddikim, one v'toiv loy, he's having things are good, and one is things are no good. Because again, Moshe Rabbeinu asked Eibishter, why is it like that? There's a Gemara, Machlekes and Gemara. If the Eibishter responded to him and explained it to him, one of the opinions said Hashem really didn't explain to him, and he says, you can never figure it out. I have my way why I treat one person this way, I treat person the other way. As we all know, right? We have questions why the good people suffer, all those questions we have. This is all based on the Moshe Rabbeinu had the question. But ultimately, there are these, what the Rebbe is going to say, that basically There's two explanations of this, two ways of explaining this Gemara. One, it's a state of how he's celebrating life. In other words, the both tzaddikim seems like it's one level of type of person, right? So you still have three: the tzaddik, the rasha, and the beinoni. The tovlo and the ralo is if things are good or things are no good. And the same thing, the rasha. Moshe Rabbeinu asked, a rasha, there's certain rashaim, things are going good for them. Certain rashaim, things are not going good for them. So how many categories? It's one. It's just the ralo and the tevle. If things are good or things are no good. But Dr. Rebbe is going to bring over here another pirush that it's ultimately the tzaddik, the tov, tzaddik, v'rali is two separate types of tzaddikim. So when you say two separate types of tzaddikim, the tzaddik and two separate types of rishayim, so ultimately it's five categories, five distinct types of yidden. The rasha v'tevle, tzaddik v'tevle, tzaddik v'rali, and the beinoni, which is in between then rasha v'rali and rasha v'tevle. So it says we find the Gemara five: tzaddik v'tevle, tzaddik v'rali, rasha v'tevle, rasha v'rali, and the beinoni. So the Gemara says tzaddik v'tevle, tzaddik gomer. So the Gemara says, and this is one of the ways Rebbe to respond to Moshe Rabbeinu, or the Gemara is saying why is basically explaining why is it good to him, why things are so good. He says because he's a tzaddik gomer, he's a complete tzaddik. The tzaddik which is suffering in this world, he's also a tzaddik, but he's not a complete tzaddik. So he's not a complete. He has certain blemishes in his avodas Hashem. So Hashem looks after his blemishes in this world. Now, to us, we don't understand the advantages, the virtues, the beauty of the world to come. We have pretty much no idea what it's all about there, how great it is. And we know from the Mishnah. The Mishnah says one moment in the world to come is greater than the entire world and the entire pleasures of this world. And you're dealing with somebody, which is probably an impossible reality, that someone should really go through life without any bumps. Probably never existed. But let's say theoretically someone goes through life without any bumps. Everything is good and smooth, never aggravation. The best of all. So the Mishnah says that one moment in the world to come is more pleasurable than all the pleasures, delicacies, delights we have in this world. So we have some idea. It's not something which really we can understand, perceive, but some idea we realize that's a different type of pleasure. In the other hand, tell the Yid, Hashem, you tell someone he's suffering in this world, and Hashem has so much for him in the world to come. Not always does it resonate. We know to some degree it makes sense. We know Hashem is Shefet Kol Haaretz, and He knows doing good, and probably it's better for me that I go through the cycle, the washing cycle in this world, and the world to come things will be good. Not necessarily always. It's something which a person could say, yeah, I could appreciate it. We know it from the Mishnah, we know it from the Gemara, we know that it's a different type of, and we know that it's better to suffer in this world than the world to come. But there's knowing and knowing. You say something, I've done my share, I can't leave some for the world to come. It's an incorrect statement by definition, because that's the truth, that suffering a bit in this world is not only the difference of suffering in this world, the world to come is infinite. There is no comparison. So by definition, the way it is, it's the greatest kindness of Hashem, and Hashem looks after the blemishes of man in this world as opposed to the world to come. So when you find that tzaddik and veraloi, so Hashem has a choice. Or again, he's an incomplete tzaddik. Like we just said, the tzaddik v'tevlei, Hashem, there's no reason to punish him or to give him a hard time in this world because he's a tzaddik gomer, he's a complete tzaddik, he never does anything wrong. Everything about him is good, so why punish him? Or, and again, let's take a step back. When a person goes through a difficult time, it's not like a tit for tat. With Hashem, not tit. You did that, I said not to. I'm going to show you. I'll do something that you won't like. Chas v'shalom. It doesn't work like that. Besides the fact that in Torah itself, it says, lo yisika, you're not supposed to take revenge. Because Baruch doesn't take revenge. Punishment is never in that context of you did that, now I'll show you. I'll do this. Punishment, according to Torah, it's something. It's just like you, if you take someone for God forbid, like a child gets some glass in his foot. He walks without socks and he walks over glass. God forbid, glass goes into his. So the father rushes him to the doctor, and the doctor takes rubbing alcohol, and the kid's crying, doesn't understand why his father's not reprimanding the doctor. And what are you doing? And how do you take me over here? And a child thinks something went wrong with his father. His father knows it's the best thing what he ever did, that he rushed him to the doctor, and he's rubbing alcohol and he's cleaning his foot, because God forbid if the glass goes a bit deeper, it's going to be dangerous to the child. The child doesn't understand it. Get me out of here. I wish I would never come. And not only that, if he comes home, and so he's even putting on slippers after that. He doesn't realize the severity so much of the glass. What bothers him is the rubbing alcohol of the doctor. And there he's screaming and crying or so on. Or sometimes you have to rub off a stain of a child. You put the hot water on and it doesn't like it. But he doesn't realize the problem is the stain, not the hot water. In our life, to some degree, we have the same understanding. We don't realize the severity of the sin when it comes to punishment, and it hurts us, and then we scream to Hashem, please stop it. We don't even realize that, ultimately, and we ask Hashem, that's what we meant in Yom Kippur and Shoshana, the beautiful davening, Keta, the part that davening, we say, Hashem, you're God, you're infinite, you know how to get rid of sin without any affliction of pain, without any sickness, without any illness, because you're the infinite God, you know how to look after it, and you're not necessarily like the doctor, which is, you got to get the glass out, you got to do rubbing alcohol. Yeah, that's how it is in our realm, in our world. We ask Hashem, you know how to do it without. But conceptually, when you're dealing with Hashem punishes a person, what is a toiv? It's something which is good, because the sin is what caused the blemish, and the punishment is what's rubbing away the dirt, or the nega, the blemish. It's correcting, it's healing the blemish which is caused through sin, and that is many times which hurts, right? So it's ultimately a chesed. The whole idea of the phenomenon of punishment is the idea of chesed, because Hashem is cleansing the sin, cleansing the dirt which was created through the sin. And it's worse than the glass. And this is like a famous expression of Misa Ruchnis is much worse than Misa Gashmi. Spiritual death is much worse than physical death. So the idea of the Einesh is something which is ultimately taiv. So now we'd like go. So where would the punishment? Where was it? You think about it again conceptually. Where's a better place to receive that punishment, to get rid of the blemish? Obviously, in this world, in the world to come. Because in the world to come, I'd rather have 100% of the benefit and the pleasure what the world to come is all about. And then and chas v'shalom, not to go through this stage and that stage in Gehenna, because I have to cleanse my sins there, instead of because I didn't do it in this world, because it wasn't done to me in this world. So when you're dealing with the tzaddik, because he's a tzaddik, and Hashem has rachmanas in him, and he says, I have a choice, or to give him in the world to come, or to cleanse in his sin in the world to come, or to cleanse in his sin in this world. Hashem says, let's do it in this world. Why is he suffering? Why the tzaddik v'tevlei? Not because the tzaddik v'tevlei, because he's a tzaddik gomer. It's a different type of person. He is a complete tzaddik. He doesn't have any blemish for which Hashem has to clean him. So that's why he doesn't suffer in this world. A tzaddik v'ralei, why is he suffering in this world? Because he's a tzaddik she'ein gomer. He's an incomplete tzaddik. So he has a blemish. Because he's a tzaddik, Hashem says, I'd rather take care of his blemish in this world. But what we see from here is there's two different type of people, two different type of states in Avodas Hashem. This is a tzaddik gomor, a complete tzaddik, and tzaddik. And Al-Derech says similarly. We'll basically stop over here, but the later is going to say the Rasha and there's two types of Rasha. It's not only what's happening to him in this world, but what's happening in this world shows that it's two different type of people. There's the Rasha v'Tevlei and Rasha v'Rali, which means someone who's Rasha v'Tevlei means he's such a Rasha. He's such a Rasha that Hashem says, Rasha v'Ralei. He's a person that Hashem decides that he's going to give him his punishment in this world, as opposed to the Rasha v'Tevlei. Hashem is going to give him the punishment in the world to come. So again, why is that? Because it's the two types of Rishaim, two types of people. In other words, it's something which is not something which just what happens with them in this world, if it's Tov or if it's Ra, but it's two distinct type of Rishaim. So this is what do we gain from all this? That from this Gemara we see it's not just three types of Yidden or three types of levels in Avodas Hashem. Two of a tzaddik, and just again, it's just what occurs to them. Tzaddik, Rasha, and the Beinani, just what occurs to them. But there's the tzaddik itself is divided into two. The Rasha is divided into two. The Beinani is one. So you have 5 chalukos, 5 distinct types of levels in Avodas Hashem. So that's what he said: tzaddik v'tevlei, tzaddik gomer, tzaddik v'ralei, tzaddik she'ein gomer. Okay, we'll stop over here.
What about the person in the middle?
I'm sorry?
What about the person in the middle?
Oh, the Beinani. We didn't get there yet, and we're going to definitely get it. Not only that, as you notice, the whole Sefer of Tanya is called a Sefer Shel Beinani. So this is again, in order to get to the ultimate Beinoni, which is again, this is the reason why it's called Sefer Beinoni. We're going to see that we ought to drive to be a Beinoni, not necessarily the tzaddik, as we said in the beginning. So now the Rebbe is going to define what the tzaddik is, and what the tzaddik v'teilah and tzaddik v'ralei, and then on the other side the Rosh. Then we'll understand what the Beinoni is all about, and then we'll realize how really this is something which is pertinent to us, to our Avodas Hashem, to be the Beinoni.